What's going on, everybody? We are back. Episode number 233 of the Club and Sub podcast. Tonight we're talking UFC Paris. It is Nasruddin Imavov versus Caio Borralho. Great, decent card. Middle of the afternoon, little cocktail season for it. Maybe some mimosas, some breakfast sandwiches. Yeah, I'm excited for it. I always am excited for these day cards. Guys, as always, drop a like and subscribe. Before we jump in, let's just chat briefly about the last card. I swept it. It was really nice for me. Went up 6.29 units. Unit and a half on Charles Johnson, plus 219. A little sweaty early in that fight, but it ended up coming through. So that was fun. Second round KO for Charles Johnson. I had 2.4 units on Sumo Derji at minus 160. That also came through, so I was pumped about that. And then I had 3.3 units on Sergey Pavlovich, minus 220. And yeah, more or less what I thought. Bigger shots, a bit more volume, a bit more impactful. So yeah, how'd you do, Lex?
I didn't have a single bet on the card.
Really?
No, I didn't. But me and you had a shot bet, though. First fight of the card.
Which was that?
Salty Baldiev.
Oh, you're right. I do not have any liquor. I just got back from vacation today. I will do it on the next. I will do it on the next show. All right. So with that, we got a 14 fight slate starting at 12 noon in Paris. Paris has been the home of some real stinkers for me personally. So hoping to buck that trend and stay hot here, but we'll see. These European cards usually do not go great for me, but we'll jump right in. First fight of the night, we got Shauna Bannon. She's taking on Sam Page, Sam Hughes. Current price, Hughes minus 310. The comeback on Bannon, plus 260. I don't know. I really don't. I don't really want to bet Shauna Bannon, to be honest. But there is a part of me that thinks the line is like probably a decent amount wide, just because. All right, Sam Hughes has been an underdog in every one of her fights in the UFC. 10 fights, 10 for 10 as an underdog. Now she's 500 in those fights, so that's good. And I bet her. I don't even think I've ever bet against Hughes, to be honest. I don't think so. But the reason she's consistently an underdog is because consistently she does not separate. Usually to win, she needs to, go forward, kind of break you with cardio and break you, with pressure. But like most women are faster than her and better strikers and land cleaner. And she's not you. I mean, the only woman she's really dominated grappling was Elise Reed, who's a terrible grappler. So like she's fighting Shauna Bannon, and I do think she's better than Bannon, but I do think Bannon's a bit faster. I think she's a bit more fleet of foot. I think the one thing that could make this line justified or even be a little short would be if Hughes can get on top and control her easy, similar to the Elise Reed fight. Yeah. I'm just not really sure that's the case. Like, I don't think we have a lot of data to suggest that's the case. I mean, I don't think Bannon's very good at grappling, but I don't think she's like a fish either, to be honest. And the thing that I keep thinking about in my head is like, you could argue Alice Ardeleon won her fight with Bannon, right? You could make that argument. However, either way, Bannon outstruck her. That's the in that fight. And Ardeleon in the time since has had a really close fight with Melissa Martinez, who I think is a much better striker than Sam Hughes, and completely beat Rayani Dos Santos' ass in a striking fight, who I think is probably commensurate level of striker of Sam Hughes. So I think about that, and I'm just like, man, like there's no way she's minus 300 on the feet. Like not even close, in my opinion. So I don't know. I don't really want to bet Bannon, but I do think, Sam Hughes, the market going from being bearish on Hughes for her whole career to now minus 300 is a bit much. I just think Bannon's terrible. But my gut feeling is it's going to be competitive more often than not. What do you think?
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, I personally think, like, Sam is one of the freer squares of the card, personally, just because of that grappling upside. Like, I think she probably can land takedowns. And not to mention, even on the feet, like, to your point, yeah, she's not minus 300 on the feet. But I think Sam still is the much better striker than Bannon. I don't think Bannon's, her volume is just more like Chukagian volume to me. It's not very damaging, really. So
yeah, I think fair enough.
I think easy matchup for Hughes personally.
But why do you think it's like a freer square? I guess like you think she's just going to dumpster her grappling?
I mean, I think she has a large advantage in that area. Yeah.
All right, fair enough.
Yep.
Moving on, I will throw it to you first here, Lags. We've got Renat Fakhretdinov taking on Andreas Gustafsson. For current price, Gustafsson, the smallest of favorites. He's minus 115. The comeback on Renat is minus 105. What do you think here, Danny?
So I'm honestly just waiting to play Renat because, I mean, I'm fine playing him at dog. I'm fine playing him at pick him where he's at now. But to me, like, I guess for starters, like, I feel like the easy common narrative is like Gustafsson's going to break Renat down the stretch. He's shown, awful glimpses of cardio in the past. But, like, he's not exactly bringing the pace in the striking that I think would break a Renat. Not to mention, in terms of like the wrestling, Renat has the advantages in that department. I think in the grappling, I think he's even better. I think the clinch is really where it comes close with this fight. But like how I see like Renat winning this fight, I think it could be a close fight. Don't get me wrong, like where he's winning rounds 1, round 2. But I think if anybody's going to have dominant winning upside here, it's Renat with the wrestling to me. If we're talking about finishing upside, I feel like if you want to give me like if you want to like lay out like 100% probability, to me, like Renat early is like 60% and Gustafsson late's like maybe 60 or 40%, sorry. So 60-40 to me, I feel like he's a huge edge finishing early, huge dominant win upside. So to me, at pick him, I think it's a great spot.
Yeah, I have 2 units on Renat of plus 100. I think he should be in like the minus 140 range personally. I was getting ready to load a bet on Trevin Giles at plus 125 against Gustafsson in his last fight. And now he's like, that should say a lot, though, that he was only like minus 150 against Giles, and now he's a favorite against Renat. I just, I was impressed with the pace he brought against Chaos, but, it didn't change my priors a whole lot because, like, I expected him to be able to bring the pace. I didn't expect Chaos to get as tired as he got. But early in that fight, it's not like he was having an easy time pinning him to the fence. Chaos was I think Chaos, if I'm not mistaken, had more control on the fence in round 1 than Gustafsson did. He was turning him fairly easily. Mm-hmm. But obviously he kept coming and broke him. The thing is, I think Renat's like a different level of beast there. Like, yeah, I've seen a lot of people mention the fact that Dalby held Renat on the fence. Dude, Dalby's got like 30 fights, man. Like the dude's got like 15 or 16 fights in the UFC. Like he is a pretty good clinch fighter. He has beaten some really good grapplers in his career. I feel the assumption that Gustafsson is just a much better clincher than Dalby is just it's just not. I'm not saying it's not true, but I feel like it's kind of hard to make that assessment based on what he's done thus far in his career. Yeah. And, I think Renat is pretty dangerous in the clinch himself. He can strike out of the clinch. I think he can turn Gustafsson. And like the thing I just can't get past is like you go back, you watch his fights with Romanowski, from like 5 years back, and he got easily out grappled for like 2 rounds in that fight. You watch his fight with Jonathan Luderbach, and Luderbach pretty much got out grappled him for 2 rounds. Now both of them eventually got tired, but I think Renat's a much better MMA grappler than either. I've seen some takes on Renat's control, but like I don't even agree with that. Michailidis has a black belt, and Renat just kept the grappling coming and just stayed glued to him until Michailidis kind of broke. Now, I don't think Gustafsson will break, but like Renat controlled Michailidis for the majority of their fight. He controlled Battle for the majority of their fight. I think the idea that he can't possibly control Gustafsson is kind of silly. I think on the feet, Renat's much more dangerous. He's not very good himself, but he is cleaner, and I think he hits a bit harder. Obviously the big question here is just can Gustafsson, break Renat like he broke Chaos Williams and how he's broken some other guys regionally. And he might be able to. I'll say this, though, and this was kind of a lot of people are pretty sour, myself included, to be honest, about, the Carlos Leal decision, because I bet Leal in that fight, and I didn't think it was a very good decision. But, Renat attempted over 100 significant strikes at distance in round 3 of that fight. In a fight that he attempted 21 takedowns in and failed on 19. Now, I know his optics look pretty bad, but like the guy went out there and won like a competitive round 3 with Dalby looking pretty gassed. But he actually fights through fatigue pretty well. Like, I don't think you're going to see him melt in the way Chaos did. He really hasn't against anybody. He did against ZDS a bit, but that's because he got hurt bad in round 3. So, yeah, I'm kind of with you, Legs. I can see the Gustafsson, breaking him on the fence a bit and, maybe taking over on the second half of this fight, winnings round 2, 3, maybe even finishing Renat in round 3. But to your point, and I agree with it, if you tell me one of these guys wins a dominant 30-27, I'm much more convinced it's Renat. And I also think he's got a lot more finishing upside. Plus, he's more experienced, and he's got – dude, in general, I am not going to believe that, Andreas Gustafsson is like a top 15 welterweight. I just don't really believe that.
Right.
So
if you want to talk about experience, and neither of us have brought it up. I mean, just strength of schedule alone between
it's crazy.
Yeah,
it's a massive difference.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm with you. So I think this is. I don't want to say it's Renat all day. Like I made him a small favorite, but I do think there's some value on the Renat side here.
I'll put it this way: this is one of the stronger takes I have. I think he's one of the better pick'em spots. Like we have 4 or 5 different pick'em fights throughout the card. I think he's the stronger pick'em option on the card.
Yeah, I agree. Moving on, we have Brad Tavares. He's taking on Robert Brkic. Current price Tavares minus 205. The comeback on Brkic plus 175. I have a small bet on Brkic plus 202. I'm not really a big fan of Robert Brkic. I bet Ihor Peteria against him in his first fight. I made the case for Brkic being pretty shit on here in that fight. I still more or less think that, to be honest, but I'm at the point with Brad where it's like, look, Brkic, I know he's 35, but he's got much less wear and tear on him than Tavares does at 37. But I feel like Brad's, I shouldn't even say his best days are behind him. They are long behind him, in my opinion. I watch him and he's still a pretty good boxer. His hands are still, they're not very fast anymore, but they're still somewhat fast for the division. But the guy is he's just totally non-threatening. He's on the feet. He is going 50-50 with everybody. 2 years ago, he was fighting Chris Weidman's corpse and getting outboxed by him. He won that fight via leg kicks. In his last fight, I made a pretty impassioned case for Brad, and I bet him right a post against GM3, and he looked bad there, and GM3 is slow. He is dusty. That should have been, he did win the fight pretty solidly, but it wasn't very impressive, And I look at this fight, and I do think he's better than Brkic. And I think the leg kicks could be a huge thing. Brkic's very lead leg heavy, so if Brad chews his leg up and wins that way, it wouldn't really shock me. But I think if they're boxing, Brkic's a pretty good boxer. I think it'll be pretty low volume, medium volume, and competitive. And I think of the two, Brkic almost definitely carries more power. I think he's the much more likely of the two to win by knockout. I think he's the much more likely of the two to score big moments. So I think most of Brad's upside lies in the leg kick game. But Tristan said he's going to Spiller Park. Good. Yeah, that was his best performance he's had in quite a while. And don't get me wrong, I favor Brad here. I think he's a bit better than Brkic. He's obviously, much more experienced. He's fought a higher level of competition. I just feel like Brad's got no margins at this point in his career. His chin's declining, his speed's declining. He's having close competitive decisions with really bad fighters. Or not bad. No, I shouldn't say bad. But, Chris Weidman in 2024 is pretty that's pretty bad. That's that. So, yeah. Right. But, yeah, I think it's just a pure upside play for me. I think Brad's regressing downhill. I make Brad a small favorite here, but I think north of plus 165, plus 170, Brkic's a decent, buy low spot. What do you think, Legs?
I don't hate the angle you're coming from, John. We talked about this a little bit before the pod, but to me, pretty much to anybody. This would be Brad Tavares' worst loss.
Yeah,
by a large margin. And I get it. He's looking regressed. He's looking washed. But to me, this is such a step down in competition that I feel like Brad should be fine on the feet. The leg kicks, to your point, are a huge advantage. I feel like even though he doesn't separate a ton, Brkic to me is not a guy who's pumping out a ton of volume. So I think Brad.
I think it would be a very touching. I think it'll be a very touch and go fight. I just think it's gonna be very low volume. Honestly, it's gonna be a very low volume boxing match.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah. So we'll see. I could be. Look, don't get me wrong. I do think if we come out of this being someone wins it dominantly, it's probably gonna be Brad just outclassing him. But yeah, I am at the point where it's I think Brad getting a minus 200 number against a decent boxer with power is pretty crazy. I'll
give you 2-1 shoey. Or not shoey, shot bet.
I'm not gonna do a shoey. I'll do a shot bet. Sure.
Not a shot bet. Yeah, not a shoey. I'll leave that.
Never a shoey. Never a shoey.
I'll leave it to Paul and Cody. Yeah.
Moving on, we have got good one here. We got Sam Patterson. He's taking on Trey Waters. Current price, money currently coming in on Sam Patterson. He's minus 186. They come back on Waters plus 161. What do you think, your likes?
banger of a fight, and I'll be honest, what I was trying to look and see real quick here was the over-under.
That's actually a great question.
It doesn't
is
really interest me. It's
1.5.
Yeah, and the ends ITD's minus 250. I mean, I think it's going to be a banger on the feet. I mean, both of these guys are fairly defensively void, and to me, I think the line's close to right. Like, to me, I feel like Patterson has more finishing upside. If anybody's going to have grappling upside, it's going to be Patterson as well. I think he's probably slightly more durable. To me, both these guys aren't that durable. Fairly hittable as well. I think it's a good violence look.
I will eventually bet Waters here. I just taped this right before we came on the pod.
Okay.
I feel so. My thing is, I just look. Patterson's had a lot of success grappling in the UFC thus far, but
yeah,
he doesn't really ever. Fair. And like, I went pretty deep on his tape. He's not really an initiator of grappling, you know, like most of his like success in the UFC grappling has been counter grappling guys. He did take Crosby down, but it was after Crosby clinched him up and he kind of just back tripped him. I've only seen him in like 10 or 12 fights, like land like 3 takedowns ever himself. And it's always just like a trip against the fence. So, I mean, don't get me wrong. He could take Waters down. I don't think it's impossible. But I think he's a worse wrestler than Quinlan. I think he's a much worse wrestler than Billy Goff. And like Goff went 1 for 12 on takedowns. Quinlan went 1 for 4. So like I would project him to land less than 1 takedown at a pretty high clip here. And even if he does get a takedown, unless it's in the open mat, if it's in the open mat, Waters is like deep shit. But if it's against the fence, you know, Waters does a pretty good job of like grabbing a whizzer and working up that way. And he's just really hard to take down against the fence in general. So like, I think there's a couple of things that could happen here. I do think Patterson can force the clinch a fair amount here, have some success there potentially. You know, Trey will strike out of it, but like I do think that's probably on the feet where his biggest edge will be. But like at space, I like Trey striking a lot more than I like Patterson's, to be honest with you. It's not that Patterson's a bad striker, but you know, he's very rigid and he's very wooden in how he strikes. He's got that like big tall man's defense. You know, he's got like good technical boxing. But one thing I noticed that like really bothers me with him is that, you know, when he goes to strike, like, or when he's trying to avoid a strike, he's not parrying it or like slipping it. He's just going straight back and using his size and reach. And conversely, on the Waters side, it's almost the exact opposite. Now, Waters, obviously, he can scare the shit out of you with how low he keeps his hands. But Waters isn't looking to use his size and just pull out, you know, back all that often. He's looking to slip shots and counter, which I think against a guy like Patterson, especially, I think it should allow him to land solidly more often than Patterson a lot of the time. And the other big thing is I don't like Trey's defense at all with how he sits back with his hands down. But like the way to really exploit that is to kind of do what Gabriel Bonfim was doing to him, which is come in and throw in like 2-3 punch combinations, you know, try to catch him moving with his hands down. And even in that fight, Waters did a pretty good job of kind of avoiding his shots and landing back. But Patterson doesn't really do that. He's really much more of a single shot type guy. And if he's throwing single shots at Waters, I think he's going to get countered hard a lot in this fight. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's an interesting fight because I do think if the floor is lava for Waters here, like if he does end up on bottom, whether he trips off a kick or anything like that, and Patterson consolidates top position, he's in deep shit. And I'm not saying Patterson can't win striking. Like, I think the striking's competitive. I just feel like I like Waters striking a bit more. I think I like Waters' durability a bit more than his. And then the couple to compound all that, you know, Waters is coming off a torn ACL. So there's some, you know, worry there as well. But I think it's a very close fight, in my opinion. I think it's going to be hard for Patterson to get this fight to the ground. He wasn't really trying to do it against Danny Borralho either. So is he going to really push it hard here? I don't really think so. So yeah, I mean, I think it's near a pick'em fight. I like the Waters side. I'll eventually be there, but it looks like money's coming in on Patterson. So I will wait. I will bide my time and wait. Moving on. Curious to hear your take, Lags. We got Caio Fernandez. He is taking on newcomer from Cage Warriors, Harry Hardwick. Current price, Fernandez is a small favorite. He is minus 160. The comeback on Hardwick is plus 140. What do you think here?
Well, I didn't know if you get a chance to see the text I sent you, but this is the one that I did not get to tape because this is a relatively new. Yep. So take it away.
I am still trying to dig in on this a bit. I have taped a fair amount of it. I don't know if I'll end up with a bet on it. I think on paper, Harry Hardwick poses some pretty significant questions and potential issues to Fernandez in that, he's durable, he's very pressure forward, he's got very good cardio, he works the body, a lot like his brother George, But similar to George, I have similar concerns with him fighting at this level in that, he's pretty plotty, he's kind of easy to hit. I don't think he does a great job of cutting the cage off, and I don't think he's particularly fast for the weight class. Now, I do think, though, the thing is, I feel like if he's not getting KO'd by Caio, he's going to probably take over on the back end of this fight, just because I think Fernandez's cardio is really quite awful. And I think at the pace that Hardwick's likely to force him to fight at, he will probably slow down bad on the back end here. So I think he's got some upside there to maybe take over at the end of the second and win it, or win the third, or maybe finish in the third. Problem for me is I feel like while they're fresh, Fernandez is just much better. He's much faster. He's got better footwork. He's more precise. I think he hits harder. I know Hardwick hasn't really, I don't believe he's been finished. I could be wrong about that actually, but he's been, I think he can walk on to some really, really hard shots here and just have his hands full for Glenbot saying isn't Hardwick like 31. Yeah, he's been around for a minute. Both the Hardwick brothers have. He's a decent fighter, but I really think the early going in this fight is going to be really, really tough for him because I think he's going to be walking into a much faster and better striker and trying to wear him down. And I think if he survives the onslaught, for the first 7 or 8 minutes, he might be able to wear him down. So I don't know. I guess, I can understand Hardwick takes in this fight. I guess my view is I think Fernandez probably has more finishing upside in it, and I think he's more likely than not going to bank the first 2 rounds of decent clip here. Plus, Hardwick's on very, very short notice. So for me, if you tell me Hardwick breaks him and maybe wins the second and wins the third, I could buy it. You tell me he finishes him in the third, I could buy it. But I do think he's going to have to walk through some serious fire to get to that point. So I don't really hate the line. I think Fernandez minus 160 is fine. Moving on, we have got
I was going to say real quick there. Hardwick has been finished once though by sub. Just to your question there.
Oh, Fernandez isn't going to sub him. I don't think that would be pretty surprising. Right. Moving on, we got Marcin Tybura. He's taking on Ante Delija. Any thoughts here, Lags? The current price is a pick'em. It is minus 110 aside.
This is one of the last fights I actually got to tape, and to be honest, it kind of scares the shit out of me, to be honest, because I lean the Marcin side just because I feel like if he's not getting knocked out, he's probably just having a higher work rate in general, higher volume. I think he maybe can even land takedowns over Delija too. So I lean the Marcin side, but I mean, at his age, his recent fights, to me, he's just going in there to fight, really. You know what I mean, John? Not a specific game plan, really. So I'm fine passing on a pick 'em.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'll bet it. I probably won't, to be honest, just because. So, I lean Delija here,
okay.
But it is a pretty large jump in competition for him from the guys he's been fighting in the PFL. I mean, and if Marcin gets on top of him, it's going to be scary, really, really scary.
Yeah.
I mean, and in general, Marcin's fought better guys. He is, the much more seasoned fighter. He's just got much better wins. He's a much better grappler from top position than Delija is. What concerns me for Marcin, though, there's a few things. First of all, I think the speed on the feet here is going to favor Delija pretty significantly. He throws a lot harder and he throws a lot faster. And I think if Marcin gets stuck in some pocket exchanges early, he could be in a bit of trouble because Delija does hit hard. I've always been more bullish on Marcin's chin than most, but let's be honest, he's 39 years old now. He's looking slower than he ever has. He's getting tagged more than he ever has. And Delija does throw heavy. The other thing that bothers me, and I just said it, 39 years old. I bet him big against Parkin. I think you bet him as well, right?
I did not bet him against Parkin. I bet him against Spivak.
Yeah, I bet him big against Parkin and against Spivak, and the Spivak loss was perplexing. It's still perplexing how he got armbarred at heavyweight. And the Parkin fight, I thought he looked dire. First of all, I think he deserved to lose that fight, to be honest. I really do. And I also felt like he looked horrendous. He looked slow. His wrestling looked pretty shit to me. He looked hittable. I mean, when he got on bottom with Parkin, I know Parkin's got a black belt, but like Parkin like mauled him, when he got on top of him, which was like really, really concerning. He only really won the third round of that fight because Parkin gassed out for mauling him, I look at that fight and I'm like, he's had a couple inconsistent performances like that in recent years, and now he's almost 40. Delia's got a lot more firepower. Delija can wrestle himself. I don't think it's a lock that Marcin can even get him down, though. I mean, obviously, if he does, that's bad. But yeah, I mean, I'm probably going to pass just because like Marcin's been my guy. I've been riding him forever. I really never bet against him, so I don't really want to bet against him and pick him with a PFL, debutante coming over here. But I do lean the Delija side. I saw Glimbot say he has Ante 4-1 round one. It's not horrible. I do think Ante runs through KO a lot. So, because like if Marcin kind of gets his fight going, he'll probably win, right? But yeah, I lean Delija. What was that?
I was gonna say, to his point, the under I don't think is that bad either, because if Marcin's getting on top, he probably is finishing.
Yeah, Delija is pretty
He's tough,
solid though. He is.
Yeah.
But moving on, we have an awful
solid.
fight.
Yeah.
We have an awful fight here. We got Umar C. It's Brenton Ribeiro. Umar C is minus 500. The comeback on Ribeiro is minus 375. I have not a lot to say here. Ribeiro has enough firepower, is long enough and fast enough that he can knock C out at space. But if C just follows father's plan and goes for takedowns here, they're going to be basically free. And I don't think Ribeiro is going to get up. I don't think Ribeiro is going to be Kimura sweeping him. And my instinct is more often than not, C's going to win this fight by submission. I think he gets on top, cuts through him, and finishes him. Wouldn't be like totally blown away if Ribeiro just memes some shit out and knocks him out on the feet. But short of that, I think he's pretty screwed, to be honest with you. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think we're seeing this fight completely the same. I think C should be able to land takedowns free, should be able to pass, should be able to finish any method he chooses. Does it go over under 1.5? Maybe goes over 1.5. I could see it squeaking over.
Yeah, I could see it.
Hear me out on this though. Why are we not matchmaking like Cerquera and Ribeiro?
That is true. Well, I mean, it seems pretty deliberate to try to get C a win in France. Since
I know, I get that. Don't get me wrong, I get that. But I'm like a more fun matchup would be like something like that. Like if we're
C sub is garbage. Plus 200, like that's. I was hoping with Ribeiro being a Brazilian and all, maybe it would be like plus 350, plus 400, but no such luck. Yeah. Moving on, we got Willem Gomis taking on Robert Ricella. I bet Gomis at minus 225. I probably price him close to minus 300 here. I think there's still a little bit of value at the current price. I bet him to win a unit and a half. Ricella is a decent fighter. He's coming from the KSW scene. He was a champ over there for a bit. He fought Saudi and Parnas, got clowned for the most part, but Parnas is really, really good. Mm-hmm. Ricella is very chaotic, likes to come forward, likes to throw. I think he'll have success with guys that oblige him a firefight. Biggest weakness I see for him is he is a bit hittable, and to couple it, he's just not a good grappler. Bad takedown defense, and he doesn't seem to have much of a get-up game off bottom at all. Taking on Willem Gomis, it's a pretty tough debut in my opinion. Gomis is a very good fighter. I know I laid the chalk on him in his last fight, and he lost to Haider Emil. That was a really close fight. I thought he could have won it. I think it spoke more to what Emil is, to Emil being better than my expectations than Gomis being worse. But Gomis has insane footwork, very fast, much longer, more precise. I think if he wants, he can just skirt the outside of the cage and pick Ricella off. And if he really wants, and he wants to take the path of least resistance here, or if Ricella ever makes things hairy, I think he can take him down pretty much at will and just grapple him. Gomis is really good. I think he's like a top 10 to 12 featherweight, in my opinion. No one likes him because of how boring he is and because, people call him a weasel, but dude, his striking metrics are like insane. It's like people are like, oh man, Gomis isn't that special. And it's like, no, he's just like outlanding his opponents like 1.6 to 1 for his career so far. Like that's something that only weasels do, like not an elite thing, he's a decent wrestler, and he's a really good striker, and he's really long and fast with great footwork. I mean, I think this is easy, Gomis. Like Dravi just said in the chat, I bet him. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I'm probably going to still bet, like you said early on. I think at the money line price where it's still at now, I think there's meat on the bone. I think, honestly, the decision line is still fine where it's at. I mean, to me, I take Ricella first, and I was like, well, he kind of has a style on the feet that, like, should be easy work for Gomis, honestly. Just his footwork's much, much, much better. And in terms of the wrestling that you touched on as well, Gomis can land takedowns to me easily whenever he wants to, if he feels any danger. So, easy fight for Gomis. I think he's one of, like I said, one of the better parlay spots early on. Maybe you parlay her up with Sam Hughes. I know people don't like Sam Hughes, but listen,
I don't like that parlay spot. There is a spot coming up that I think could be parlay. We'll have a conversation in a couple fights. There's a fight coming up that I think is pretty interesting.
That's fine.
Yeah. Moving on, we have got a really cool fight here. Patricio Pitbull, he is meeting Hossein Keita, Octagon champion, 2-division champion, coming over here to take on Pitbull in his debut in Paris. The current price, Keita, pretty big favorite against the veteran like Patricio. He is minus 212. The comeback on Pitbull is plus 182. What do you think, Lags? You think Pitbull's live here?
No, I'll be honest. I'll be a little short on this one. I think the KO is where I'm looking at for Keita. I think he's much faster, hits much harder, probably more durable as well, much younger.
I agree. He's faster and hits pretty hard and is much younger. I don't know if I'll get to a Pitbull bet, to be honest. I probably won't. I do think it's an interesting fight, though, because, I mean, Keita, Keita's fighting an Octagon, first of all, where there's some good guys come out of the promotion, but it's pretty shit in the aggregate, if we're being completely honest.
That's fair.
And I look at Keita and where the line was, I was expecting to see, like, Yair Rodriguez 2.0, measuring distance, great, insane kicker. But not really. He's just kind of an aggressive marauder who's very fast. He does go to the body well, which I like, and he's got big power, but he's kind of wild, honestly. For a guy who is getting priced like this against Pitbull, he is pretty wild. A lot of his combinations are very, very wide. I do think he does a pretty good job measuring distance defensively, but when he hard commits, I think he can be hit. He doesn't really kick a whole lot. He doesn't really grapple at all. I actually think that's probably a pretty big minus for him, to be honest. And he's taking on Patricio Pitbull, who is 38 years old, probably on the way out, but it's a huge step up in competition for him. And I look at this, and my biggest questions about the fighter, first of all, is Pitbull going to let him back him up? And I'm not sure about that, because if Pitbull doesn't give ground and let Keita push him forward, I think what this is going to turn into is a very, very low volume fight where Pitbull is looking to set up his counters and Keita's trying to carefully pick his spots. And if it turns into that kind of fight, I would almost favor Pitbull in that kind of fight, just because his hands are still very, very fast. He's the much, much more precise boxer of the two. If they're in boxing range, I think Pitbull's going to win most of those exchanges pretty easily, to be honest. But the other big question, and the problem with that, if they are swinging in boxing range a lot, is I just don't know where Pitbull's shit is at this point. I think it is pretty clearly cracking at an alarming degree. He got hurt bad by Yair. Prior to that, he got hurt by Sergio Pettis. He got knocked out in Ryzen. He's 38. He's got a lot of miles on the tank. He's just not the guy he used to be, is the reality. So I do think from that perspective, he's fighting a faster, much more explosive fighter who carries like real power. I think that's enough to favor Keita almost in and of itself. But I don't know, man. I feel like if you tell me Pitbull doesn't get hurt, he is going to win. Or he should be favored. If you tell me he doesn't get hurt in the fight, he should be favored. Because I actually think if Pitbull hangs in there with him and it turns into a technical striking fight and Pitbull doesn't get knocked out or dropped, it's going to be a very close fight that favors Pitbull. But I also just feel like where Pitbull is, the speed difference and, the durability difference, he's probably going to get hurt here more times than not. And he's probably going to get knocked out at a pretty fair clip. So I'm going to pass. I wouldn't be shocked to see Pitbull compete pretty hard here. But yeah, I mean, that was a lot of words to say. Very explosive athlete who's 10 years younger and much more durable should probably be favored, I guess.
Yeah.
Moving on, we have got Another debutante here, Axel Sola. He's coming over from Aries. He's the 155-pound champion over there, I believe. And he's taking on McKee. Current price, Sola minus 131. The comeback on McKee, plus 111. What do you think here, Lags?
It's another one of these pick'em fights where I just don't think I have a great read. Like Axel Sola going through his fights, like seems pretty well-rounded, decent striker. He's got a good jab on him, good volume as well. Can land takedowns as well, go to the wrestling if he needs to. But I just don't see a ton of substance to his striking game, really. Like I feel like it is very basic. Like it's not very wide. Like he's not going to win wide margins, I should say, on the feet. He's going to need those takedowns probably to, win decisively. And over McKee, can he land takedowns? Probably. Like to me, I feel like the line's maybe right. Slight favorite on the on his side, just because of that wrestling upside.
Yeah, I've gone back and forth on this a lot. I do feel in the aggregate, Sola, his skills at least look better on tape than McKee's do to me. But I mean, also keep in mind the competition he's fighting is really quite horrendous. Like it really, really is quite horrendous. I like, his boxing. It's fun. He's got a nice jab. He's got a lot of head movement. He does some pretty cool stuff in there with the boxing. But like, I don't think his kicking is good at all. I think he's a bit hittable. He kind of reminds me of. You remember when Dusko first came to the UFC and he looked like a sick boxer? He was always moving his head, throwing the jab out there.
I wasn't thinking that
pretty
at all.
Fast. But I mean, he was fun to watch, when he got to the UFC.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what Sola reminds me of. Like I mentioned, Trey Waters likes to go with his hands down and slip shots, but like Trey Waters is really, really good at slipping shots. I don't think Axel Sola is all that good at slipping shots. So.
No.
And in the wrestling, I think he can get takedowns here, probably a few of them. I don't think he's much of a grappler, though. Like, is he a better grappler than Ange Lusa? I would say at best it's probably commensurate. I think Lusa's probably a bit better than him just because of the size and power. And then you put that together in there, too, and it's like, dude, Sola's coming up from 155 on relatively short notice here to go to 170 against a much bigger and much longer opponent. And I am not I bet Reese McKee in his last fight. And in general, I'm not a huge Reese McKee guy because he does have poor hips. He's not a good defensive wrestler at all. He is very, very easy to hit. He swings pretty wildly and he leaves himself out of position in a place to get countered a lot. But he is very experienced. He's tough as shit. He is going to come forward and throw shots at you. And he throws a lot of nasty stuff, like a lot of nasty elbows, a lot of nasty knees. And I look at the fight and I'm like, yeah, if Sola can keep this pretty and just kind of stick to, getting in and out with his boxing, get the top position and, avoid getting hurt, then yeah, sure, he should win the fight. But I don't think it's going to be that easy for him. And I kind of touched on this a bit with the Waters fight. But, Sola is the kind of guy, if you put combinations together against Sola, you'd probably you can probably get to him. And, McKee is going to do that. He's going to throw strikes in bunches here. I think McKee, there will not be a scared bone or a jittery bone in his body. He's the bigger man. He's longer. I think he's the much more dangerous of the two fighters. And the fact that he's the much more dangerous of the two fighters, I think opens up a lot of, I think it makes the line kind of almost being wide by default. I don't really I hate having money on McKee. I hated having money on him against Frunza, but he won. But I kind of want to have money on him again here. I really feel like Sola is going to be one of these guys who looks really pretty beating up bums in Aries. But when he comes over here and he fights, real fighters, just kind of gets dunked on,
Could be similar to the like a Michael Figlak,
Yeah. Figlak at least is tough though, Figlak has some skills. He's just not the athlete. But yeah, that is a good point though, because I don't think Solo's much of an athlete either, and he's not much of an athlete, and he's moving up from 155 to 170. That doesn't seem like a great plan, honestly. 6-Hound saying thoughts on the Reese finish only plus 110. Yeah, I would lean that way pretty strongly, honestly.
Yeah, I mean I would lean him having the finishing upside. So yeah. Yep.
I mean, Sola only has 3 finishes, right, in his career.
Yeah, he's not much of a finisher.
And he's fighting shit cans and not really finishing. So honestly, I lean the McKee side. I might get to a bet on McKee. I haven't 100%. I fucking hate how much of a zombie he is, but He's like obviously the side though, you know. It's funny because like when I first taped it, I taped Sola, and I was like, maybe I could bet him against McKee. And I looked at McKee, and it's just like, dude, he's not gonna like these. McKee's not gonna sit there and just let him jab him in the face for 15 minutes. You know, it's
more power to
I don't know.
John.
Yeah, we'll see.
If you end up doing it.
Coming up, we got Balaji Oki taking on Mason Jones. Current price, Mason Jones minus 135. The comeback on Oki plus 115. I had bet Oki at plus 140. I have not decided whether or not I want to hold on to it. There are aspects of Oki I like here. He's faster, much more precise striker, much better defense. You know, he's got pretty good takedown defense. And Mason Jones is a bit of a punching bag. The one thing that I keep coming back to that kind of worries me is just like watching the grappling sequence with Timmy Kawamba makes me like really, really nervous, because when Kawamba, I actually do think Oki's got really good takedown defense. He's got good hips. He's got, you know, good reaction time. But the way he looked when Kawamba got on top of him, he looked kind of clueless to me. You know, he was just doing like all the wrong things to get out of that position. And Kawamba held him down for like 2 minutes there. And Jones, if he's smart, is going to try to attempt takedowns here, in my opinion.
Right.
You know, so I am moderately concerned about that. And so like I've been thinking about, you know, whether I want to hold on to it or bail on it. I will say, I think Jones has gotten a little bit better since his first stint in the UFC, but not much, man. Like Jones, he wants to come forward, throw a lot of volume, and then probably try to take you down. I just don't think he's a great wrestler. I don't think for a guy with a black belt in jiu-jitsu, he's all that great at control. And I think, you know, his recklessness and how easy he is to hit is going to come back to him and get him finished one of these days. You know, Jeremy Stevens' corpse hurt him in his last fight. Mike Davis hurt him a couple times back in the day. We've actually seen him get out grappled at times by like Ludovic Klein. And that's another concern for me here for the Jones side is like, what if Jones just tries to take Oki down and Oki's just way stronger and just kind of outmuscles him, similar to what Klein did? So yeah, I lean Oki. I think Oki's got the better tools in the aggregate. Like the one thing that just sticks in my head though is like if he ends up on bottom here, like Jones surely is better on top than Timmy Kawamba is. But yeah, kind of what Robbie said, physicality difference is gigantic. The athleticism difference in general is just insane in this fight. And also, I actually think, you know, I'll give Mason Jones credit. I think he pushes through fatigue well. But I think in terms of pure cardio, Oki's got a pretty gigantic advantage here. So yeah, I'm on Oki. I haven't decided if I'll hold the whole thing or not. I have plus 140. I made the line around Pick'em. I still think it's around there. I'm having some second thoughts. What do you think, Wags? Am I crazy? Are you worried at all about the grappling from the Oki side?
No, I don't think you are crazy, because to me, I feel like this is similar to the Patterson fight that we were talking about a little bit earlier. Like I lean the Jones side because I think he can land takedowns here and probably can have success in that realm. And, you know, like I said, I don't think you are that crazy. But on the feet, though, I mean, these guys, it's kind of a punching, like both of these guys can be punching bags, really. Like, to your point, though, Oki's much more sound defensively, but like both these guys can be had on the feet. Jones can definitely have success there as well. So, again, it's one I'm fine passing. I'd rather watch the fight, not have any action on it.
Fair enough. We move on. Modestas Bukauskas, he's taking on the Bear Jew, Paul Craig. Current price, Bukauskas is minus 350. The comeback on Craig plus 285. This is the one I was going to say. I feel like it's parlayable.
Yeah, I knew you were leading to that. Yeah, and that's fair, and that's probably where I would go to. And that's what I was saying when we were talking about that specifically. I wouldn't parlay Hughes, but I think parlaying her is fine. But yes, Modestas is a better option for sure.
I feel like Modestas Bukauskas is probably pretty big value here. I know there are many, many tales about, you know, people have everybody has a story about losing money fading Paul Craig with juice. Yeah. But obviously it's because it's a lot. But like I really feel, and like I get it, you know, I do Paul Craig. I mean, I did it with Andre Muniz. Yeah, Andre Muniz was my white whale. Yeah. That's there's a lot of stories, but like fuck man, I think Paul Craig is like beyond done. I really, really do. His chin looks dustier than ever. You know, he kind of gave like people flashes of hope with the Bo Nickel fight, where he was just kind of like just throwing jank shit at him. Right, yeah.
More of a stall fight. And people are like, oh,
bro, and Modestas is so much better on the feet than Bo Nickel is. Like, it's not even close. I actually think Modestas has made some pretty big improvements in recent years. You know, his takedown defense has gotten a lot better. You saw him pretty much shut out Ion Kutalaba in takedowns, which, I bet Kutlaba. I still think Kutlaba won that fight, and I got screwed. But,
he's a better wrestler than Craig.
Much better. Dude, Craig's a terrible wrestler, man. Like, Craig's looking to pull guard. Again, it's another fight where I'd project Craig to get 0 takedowns. I think if they run this fight 10 times, Craig gets a takedown once, maybe 1 or 2 in 10 times. And even off that, Craig's game isn't great from top position. It's much better, from the bottom. And on the feet, it's just not close. Modestas, he's throwing with more venom lately. He's going forward, which he hasn't done before. He's pretty good on the counter, and like everything Craig throws is naked. I just feel like I get it. Paul Craig is the ultimate banana peel. He's the final boss of banana peels. But Modestas Bukauskas really should win this fight like very easily. I just think he's going to knock him out. I think he finishes at a good clip. I'll probably have some like KO 1-2 for Modestas, but I'm honestly considering laying the chalk here. What do you think, Lex?
Yeah, no, I think we're in a similar boat with that as well. I think parlaying him up with Gomis is a smart option and probably one of the safer options this week. Yeah, I think he does finish Paul Craig. Not much more to add. He's looking old. He's looking washed. Should be a good fight for Bukauskas. Even though, personally, I've tried to fade him in the past. I don't think he's anything special. But, again, look at this run that he's on. Zach Pauga, Prakniau. The Drag.
I know. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. But dude, Paul Craig,
but 2025 Paul Craig, is he much farther away from a Prakniau that he fought or Ion Kutalaba?
Yeah, and let's be honest, even 2017 prime Paul Craig was getting finished by Tyson Pedro and Jimmy Crute and Alonzo Menafield.
Yeah.
Though yeah, it's funny because dude, Craig's career is so fucking stupid, but it's something that's for damn sure. Moving on though, we have got the co-main event. It's a banger. Very curious to hear your opinion on this, Lags. We have Benoit Saint Denis. He's taking on Mauricio Hufy. Hufy currently a minus 180 favorite. The comeback on Saint Denis plus 155. What do you think? Is there value on Saint Denis? Is he going to score the upset here?
I actually don't think so, personally. And I know there's not a ton of tape with Rufy's defensive grappling, but to me, the guy seems super physical, seems super strong. And while we're on the feet here, it's target practice to me. I think Hufy should have no problem finding BSD's shin, landing hard on him. I think he should be able to finish him personally.
Yeah, it's an interesting fight. I feel I understand why a lot of the communities bet Saint Denis here. Obviously it's a big step up in competition on paper for Hufy, and Hufy's grappling is, I don't want to say untested, but it's untested by anybody at this level, if we're being honest. So it's a kind of fight that it's possible that Saint Denis could just run through him and it looks fucking obvious in retrospect. My issue is I don't think it's, and I'm not betting, let me put it this way, I'm not betting Hufy at minus 180. If you got to minus 130, minus 140, I might, but I do think it's not, I don't think it's quite as binary as people think, because I think the assumption that Hufy's just screwed if he gets taken down, I think is a little off base. It could be right, but from what I've seen of Hufy on the ground, he seems to know what he's doing. He seems to have a decent get-up game, and he's got very, very good hips and good takedown defense. And so it could be the kind of fight where Saint Denis could get 2 or 3 takedowns and still lose the fight solidly. You know what I mean? Or it could be the fight where he's got really good takedown defense and he just beats the shit out of Saint Denis. Don't get me wrong, Saint Denis hits hard and he could catch Ruffy and knock him out. It wouldn't shock me. But, Hufy's striking is so much better. It's not even close. And I don't think Saint Denis' chin is all that good personally. This guy got hurt by Gabriel Miranda. He was almost murdered 3 times by Zaleski dos Santos. He did get murdered by Dustin Poirier.
Yeah.
And now he's facing probably a sharper counter striker than anybody he's fought before. And, on top of which, he came down from 170 and he's been hossing a bunch of guys, but Hufy's actually a former 170 pounder himself. So I don't think it's going to be easy for him to just hoss Hufy around. So yeah, I think BSD needs to dominate this fight on the ground. If he doesn't, I think he's going to get knocked out here. If you tell me that he does dominate though and looks minus 300, I'll believe it. I wouldn't be shocked at it. But conversely, if you tell me that it's like Hoopy's just like using his footwork and just picking him off, intercepting him easily, and then eventually puts him away, or wins a pretty comfortable decision, I really wouldn't be shocked. And I think that's the bigger thing for me, Lags, is I don't think BSD can bring pace if he's not getting takedowns here. And by that, I mean, like, I think there's this assumption that his work rate on the feet is going to make Hoopy tire. Dude, if he is bringing a work rate on the feet to Hoopy, he's going to get knocked out. Like, that's... Yeah. I actually
it's going to look like Billy Q Barbosa.
Yeah, if he's trying to do that. I agree. I strongly suspect he's going to try to be careful about picking his spots to close distance here, because if he's not and he wants to just bite down and brawl, it's going to go badly for him a lot more often than not, I think. And so and that's my thing. It's like Hoopy can be tired out. So it's like, yes, if he can like get in on his hips 10 times, then he'll probably break him. But it's like, if he can't, I just think he's going to be in deep shit. So like, yeah, I think Hoopy has a lot of upside himself in this fight. I think Hoopy has a lot of upside himself in this fight. I just don't really want to bet it, honestly. Like, my gut is that Hoopy's going to knock him out. That's my instinct in this fight. I don't really want to bet it though, because like, let's be honest, BSD is coming off a loss 2 fights ago, or he has back-to-back losses, looked terrible against Moicano, beat Kyle Prepelic, but no one cares. And like, Hoopy's at his absolute market apex. And now he's taking a step up in competition and fighting the best grappler he's ever fought in his career. That's not really a dynamic you want to lay juice into. So I probably won't unless the line closes a bunch. But my instinct's yours. I think Hoopy's going to knock him out. That's my opinion. So,
yep. You both, John.
We move on. We've got Nassourdine Imavov taking on Caio Borralho. This is a really interesting main event, in my opinion. The current price, Borralho minus 125. The comeback on Imavov plus 105. What do you think, Lex?
Well, for starters, not even talking about the main event, this is like a co-main event that we should have had a 5-rounder. Because, to me at least, because not to mention, I feel like this 5-rounder main event is going to be a little on the boring side, personally. I think it probably does go all 5 rounds. Very interesting fight. Similar in a sense to the last fight. I feel like if Caio isn't having a ton of success in the wrestling, it's probably a close fight, if not favoring Imavov. Like, Imavov, to me, is the better striker of the two. Caio just gives me really weird vibes ever since I bet him against Muradov. Like, that fight just super sketchy. Cardio looked a bit sketchy. Wrestling looked a bit sketchy. I feel like the back half of this fight favors Imavov pretty bigly, personally. Don't get me wrong. I feel like either of these guys could win 3-2. Wouldn't surprise me, 48-47 either way. But I feel like Imavov has more dominant winning upside, I feel like, if Caio isn't getting those takedowns early.
Yeah, I'm not going to bet this main event at all. No. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yep.
I'm not going to bet this main event. Sorry, my mom's calling me, so it's coming through my headphones. No. I'm not going to bet the main event, but I went from leaning Caio to leaning Imavov, and I'll tell you why. Similar to you, I don't think Caio's going to have much success wrestling. And I think that's where, because like I lean Caio because I'm like, Imavov's not great on bottom. But the truth is Caio's not very good on bottom himself, and I actually think Imavov is the better wrestler of the two. I don't expect Imavov to really, I actually don't think Imavov's going to pursue grappling at all. I think Caio might, but I don't. I mean, look, if he gets a takedown or two, I won't be shocked. I do not think he's going to dominate this fight on the mat, though. I really don't. I do think where I've been really impressed with Caio is I think he's made a lot of striking improvements. He's very, very fast. I actually think his speed is similar to that of Imavov. And, Jared's old, but he really, really impressed me with how well he got in and out against Jared for 5 rounds in that fight. And so I think he could have some advantages there. But I don't know. Like, I think the striking is going to be pretty close. But I do think of the two, if one of them, the one who's more likely to win by knockout is Imavov, to be in my opinion. Imavov seems pretty durable to me, and I think he throws with a lot more intent than Caio does. On the other side of that, I do think the one who's more likely to get takedowns and maybe get 6 to 8 minutes of top time is Caio. But like I said, I really don't think he's going to like massively out wrestle Imavov. That would surprise me. I do. Unlike you, I actually like Caio's cardio a bit more than I like Imavov's, and I think that's like one of the things that's kind of keeping me off the Imavov side is like I don't know what he's going to bring, but like my gut instinct here though is that it's going to be a lot of staring. It's going to be a staring contest.
Yeah, GTD.
I think, yeah, GTD. I think a bit more finishing upside for Imavov and Caio, maybe even a lot more finishing upside. And I think there's a bit more grappling upside for Caio. I don't know, man. Like the more I'm talking about it right now out loud, I kind of like I'm like I should probably bet Imavov, but I don't want to. I haven't done well in Imavov fights. Like I really don't want to. I'm trying to avoid betting on guys who I consistently get wrong, like Nasruddin Imavov.
And that's both of these guys for me, and not that I'm really betting against both of these guys, but like I just feel like my reads in general on these guys not great.
Yeah, I think it's a close fight. Like honestly, it's like I think you could say either guy. I'd be surprised if one of these guys looks minus 200, or more. I'd be really surprised at that. I think it's a very competitive, close fight. I think I just lean to the Imavov side a little bit, but yeah, I mean, ultimately, it's going to be a pass for me. It could be like 6 Hound saying sick main event, and it's like it's a sick main event if you're a real appreciator and connoisseur of technique. I agree. I sort of suspect it's going to be a pretty boring main event, though. Personally, I don't think you're going to see a whole lot of hard commits from either of them.
No, and not to mention, I feel like they might get outshadowed. I feel like with the Fluffy and Reiner de Ritter main event that's coming up soon too. Like the winner of that fight could get a title shot over this fight if we see kind of a snooze fest. Really,
I have no interest in seeing either Caio or Imavov fight Hamzat, in my opinion.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, I just think for the quality of the division, I'd rather see the winner of Fluffy de Ritter fight Hamzat than one of them.
That's what I'm saying. I think the winner of that fight, it's going to happen.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, I mean, that'll do it. Lags and I'll be back here maybe next Sunday because I'm pretty far out in front of tape. So maybe we can do a Sunday night show this week. And yeah, we'll get it Sunday night. Guys, and sorry for the late show this week, but I was away until this afternoon for the last week. So yeah, guys. Drop a like, subscribe. Good luck on your bets this weekend. And yeah, we'll see you Sunday. Peace.